Moskva is the new Northern Parliament Rainbow Heavy Cruiser, and today you'll learn exactly what makes her good and what she's good for. The main thing is that she can be shipped with Nakhimov. I mean, this is a Yuri match made in heaven because they both have green hair and white hair accessories and power cables. But besides that, Moskva also has top 3 Vanguard DPS without restrictive conditions, and she is very tanky for any content. This is not a joke. The iconic duo of Soyuz Nakhimov is now Moskva Nakhimov. So first we'll take a look at Moskva's skills, and the yellow skill says that she gets 10% firepower and evasion, and she and the flagship take 15% less firepour base damage from one random enemy. This random enemy is chosen every time she fires her main gun twice. She has 2 main gun mounts, so that's every reload. Pretty standard stuff, nothing special. Blue skill says that whenever another Northern Parliament ship sinks, that ship becomes invisible for 8 seconds while Moskva tanks the damage for her. This is also kinda whatever because Northern Parliament does not have many good ships, faction fleets suck. Plus this skill is also bugged, so it gives her 5% hit instead of 15% hit. Now red skill, finally interesting, the whole fleet's anti-air gun range is increased by 5, and that applies to the circle around your Vanguard fleet, not to any time-fused AA guns that your battleships might be using, which they shouldn't be anyways. And although Moskva's own anti-air is mediocre, this effect is quite good for the whole fleet. It's not as good as a straight 20% AA stat buff for the fleet, but it does decrease the leak chance of enemy planes, because higher range means more likely to hit enemy planes, and higher range also slightly increases AA DPS by shooting more planes at once. The red skill also makes her do a homing barrage every 8 seconds, and this is a large source of her DPS. It accounts for 20% of her DPS with the best gear, and even more if she doesn't have the best gear. This barrage applies minus 5% anti-air and minus 5% speed permanently to any enemy it hits. And this is the key part, minus 5% speed. It's a very small debuff, but it activates Nakhimov's skill. Moskva also fires this barrage as a cross-fleet 2 times at the beginning of the battle, and this cross-fleet barrage also applies the 5% speed penalty. So for example, in Operation Siren, you can put Nakhimov in one fleet and Moskva in a cross-fleet fleet or another fleet, and Nakhimov will be able to freeze the boss. One final thing is that Moskva, when she equips any Northern Parliament gear, both of her equipped guns, the CA gun and the DD gun, they all ignore shields. Whether she equips Northern Parliament gear or not, the barrages already do pierce shields, so this just affects the equipped guns. This is personal DPS against a single target boss, and immediately we see that Moskva does more damage than Plymouth, which is quite impressive, and she even beats Hindenburg on medium bosses. In fact, Moskva is the highest DPS Vanguard ship against medium. The top 3 Vanguard ships in general are Hindenburg, Moskva, and Fusion now. She has a pretty big skew against medium armor because Frozen Fortress, her 8-second barrage, has armor modifiers that are heavily favoring medium instead of light and heavy. So as I said before, this barrage accounts for 25%, 20% of her damage. According to Meebot, she has 155% of Portland's tankiness, and this is near the top of Vanguard ships, with Napoli at 163%. And according to me, she has top 3 Vanguard DPS unconditionally, unlike Jiangwu's top 3 with unreasonable conditions that we just had 2 weeks ago. She has decent AA contribution due to the fleet range buff, and those 3 points above make her very good in campaign, maybe slightly worse than Guam and Hoden Liu, because these two both tank and do a lot of AA. Moskva just tanks slightly better and does more DPS than them, but she has worse anti-air. In terms of bossing, she'll be top meta in carrier-based bossing fleets because she has a slow for Nakhimov, and this will be meta against medium and heavy bosses. So Nakhimov and Moskva kicks Implacable from the anti-heavy fleet, which was 2 Sakura CVs with Implacable, and I'll show these example fleets later. But now Implacable is not the best in any niche in the game. She's been power corrupt from all 3 bossing armor types, as well as Chapter 15 support, Chapter 16 support. Nakhimov Moskva also allows Lion to kick Soyuz from the CV medium fleet, and this fleet used to be Soyuz Nakhimov, then either Fritz or Lion. Now Soyuz is no longer needed, so we can have Lion, Nakhimov, Fritz. Moskva could occasionally be in the top meta for battleship fleets, because sometimes maybe Z-52 or Eldridge can't tank well enough, and then Moskva ends up as the tankiest ship with good DPS. But considering how Napoli has been used so infrequently, I wouldn't be holding my breath for Moskva to do the same in battleship fleets. In these three bossing scenarios, Hard Arbiter, Meta, and Challenge Mode, I'll give her all S tier just to make her equal to or higher than Napoli and Guam. But the only way Moskva is matching Z-52 or William D. Porter or Eldridge is if she is needed for her tankiness. In campaign, A tier and S tier are still very respectable, although in these situations with multiple enemies on the screen, her damage reduction is slightly less effective, so she will be just a bit lower than 155% of Portland. Damage, as I calculated before, is among the highest of Vanguard ships, 5, 6, and 4 for light, medium, heavy. And yeah, that's basically it. She's a very solid option to use in general, and Nakhimov takes her above and beyond in carrier bossing fleet. If you're a new player, this is the banner, the UR banner that I've always been telling you to save for. You should go all in until you get at least one Moskva, and this is the same for all UR banners with new UR ships. But after obtaining her, it may not be worth using or leveling her up immediately because you don't have booleans for her, and she'll be lower priority for rainbow booleans than good main fleet ships like Lion, Fritz, or Bismarck Spy. Late to endgame players will find that she has mid-tech, it's just one hit for heavy cruisers, large cruisers I guess as well. And as I said before, she is worth using in hard content with Nakhimov, but we're waiting for difficult content to be released. Like Yorktown meta is the medium boss and she's ending very soon, and the next meta showdown boss is light armor Regensburg, and there's a 99% chance that we won't use Nakhimov for that. So unfortunately right now Moskva is just super good, but the content that she's the best in is not hard enough. Here's an example anti-medium boss fleet. This is good for challenge mode or Opsci or 3 strikes and meta showdown. The problem is that 3 strikes and meta showdown doesn't actually beat the battleship fleet, which can do 4 salvos easily unless the boss specifically favors carrier fleets, or in Yorktown meta's case, Vanguard ships who favor the 3 strike carriers. Note that because Moskva does apply the slow with her cross-fleet barrage, she doesn't actually need to be in the same fleet as Nakhimov in Operation Siren. You can replace her with a different tank if you want in Operation Siren. Same deal, anti-heavy fleet. This is good for 4 strikes and meta showdown, although this does need maximum O's and tech in order to barely squeeze out the last airstrike. For challenge mode and offside, there's not such a big time crunch, so you can have less O's, less tech, and higher damage planes, because I don't really feel good about recommending 6 plus 13 Scions just for 4 strikes and meta showdown, especially when there's literally no heavy armor meta showdown boss right now. And again, in Opsci, Moskva can be in the other fleet. As for Moskva's gear for herself, basically use her own gun for medium and heavy, or for anything that's not light armor bosses, and I'll review this gun as part of my next video, but I'm just telling you right now, it's the best CA gun for anything except for light. If you don't have all those rainbows, then you can drop down to the second row, and if you still don't have that, then you can use the third row. If you still don't have that, then why are you using Moskva? You gotta limit break her first, and by the time you max limit broken her, you should be able to afford at least this gear. So that concludes my review for Moskva.